has had very
Too many things in my neck.
nursery
This is mine, right?
associations, and is here to deliver this presentation.
Too many things, I know.
It's a very lengthy biography, and it's only written out in here.
It's all in there.
Enjoy reading it.
I didn't expect to have my whole life story in there. Sorry, I thought it was going to be edited a little bit, but yes, so you got the whole spiel. Hi everyone, how are you today? Good. I think we all need to take 1 minute and stand up. And we need to open some doors because it's really hot in here and stuffy. I don't know how long you guys have been sitting. I left for a few minutes. Let's stand and take a stretch for a second. Yeah. My talk's not going to be super long.
Oh, that's the kitchen?
Okay. Okay, we ready? They want me to keep going, I know that, but I felt like we needed to stretch. Ooh, that's bright. Ready? Yes. All right. All right, everyone. So, first of all, thank you again for being here. Really appreciate being part of this group. This is the first time for me to this conference. I'm really enjoying myself. I'm learning a lot. How many of you are in the containerized business of nursery stock? Raise your hands. Okay, we are a small crowd. That is really my forte. I did do a little bit dabbling in floral stuff back in years past, but it's great to be around all the floral industry as well because I'm learning a lot of things that can apply to obviously what we do in the landscape as well, and I know the landscape people are getting that out of it as well. I was asked to do a little bit of a different talk than what you've been hearing thus far. Something a little bit it's technical, but it's not as technical. And it's a little bit more kind of geared towards it's definitely geared more towards the nursery business and the landscape business. And this is something that I have a long history in. I played with Proteas for many years in the past, a 40-year history in horticulture. It's the only thing I ever wanted to do was play with plants. That is the truth. So I'm living my dream doing that. And Protea in the landscape, I do believe, is a plant material for the future. Not all of it, but a lot of it. So let's talk about, first of all, Proteas and what they symbolize. Everybody pretty much knows this kind of stuff, but it's very important to what I'm going to talk about today. And I can tell that this mic likes me when I'm turning my head more. Okay, let's try that. So the things that the flowers themselves represent, the plants themselves, transformation and courage, their ability to survive tough situations, we've all encountered that. The diversity and adaptability from their wide range of variety and species and shapes that they offer. We know that the range is just out of this world. And the strength and resilience, thriving in fire-prone areas, coming back from that sort of in an environment, regeneration afterwards, and how we look to those plants, and we honestly need those plants here in California. We're all learning that. And then the daring beauty that they hold, their bold forms that invoke strength and the uniqueness. So I think that one of the things probably that brought us all to the point of why we love proteaceous plants is that they're so mysterious, they're unique. They're completely different than anything else out there. Everybody agree? There's nothing like them. They're kind of like an orchid in a way, right? I mean, they're just so unique, and yet we really haven't even really scratched the surface, I feel, of where we're going with these, especially hearing some of the talks today, especially about the hybridizing. Somebody mentioned there'd only been like 6 more leucospermum hybrids that had been actually registered, I guess it was. Sure, there might be more, but actually registered was interesting because you would think if you've developed something that would be useful or you could, sell it, you could do something with it, things that you would want to register it so it becomes known. But it's an interesting thing to think about the possibilities of this genre of plant material, this group. So here's some examples of their captivating beauty. The examples that I've seen, I travel a lot in my work. I do a lot of consultation and a lot of work with people to find balance in their lives and connect with nature. That sounds really hoo-hoo, but it's not. It actually relates back to a lot of things in terms of resources and how we utilize those, and especially our time, and what our time is worth not only to us but to others, and the value of that time. So there's a lot of that sort of thing that I do, and it gets very, pointed at what the person is really trying to overcome. If it's a difficulty with a particular plant or labor issues or whatever, I can help consult them and kind of direct them as where they can save some money or some time, kind of thing. So these plants have always inspired me. So here's some of the plants that I've seen in my travels here since I knew I was going to do this talk, but I'm always pulling over on the side of the road. Anybody else do that and take pictures? You're like, oh, this is illegal, but I got to do it. I got to take this picture. So again, just the captivating beauty, the colors, the shapes, and the way they just pull us in. I've already heard from, how many enthusiasts are here? Not even in the industry. That's fascinating. I think I've met most of you. You've either come up to me or I've met you just serendipitously. And what's interesting is that you're here for no other reason other than these plants sucked you in. Is that fair? Yep. They sucked you in. And that's what these plants do. And they do that to all of us. And so I think that their longevity in the landscape is not only timely, but it's also something that we really, really need. It does fill a niche also in the timing of things, especially here in the Northern Hemisphere. So again, all these plants you're seeing, one thing that you're probably noticing is that I'm kind of sticking to a certain group of plants or certain types, and that would be the leucospermum and the leucodendrons. I think that they probably have the most adaptability to people and their lifestyles and the size of the gardens that many of us have today. And it's why we see them everywhere and why we see them popping up more and more and more. So let me tell you a story. I was married before to a gentleman by the name of Andrew Proud, and he is a horticulturist also. And we are total plant nuts. I mean, we were just two peas in a pod in terms of the plant nut part. And so we bought a home, a small home in Glendora, close to Monrovia Nursery, where we both worked for many years. And this small home, it was just a bungalow style, 1 story, 1,000 square feet, really tiny, but it had 11,000 square foot yard. Oh, that was magic. We could have lived in a hut, it didn't matter. We wanted the garden, okay? And the first thing we did was we worked on the garden. We didn't work on the house, we worked on the garden. The house was fine. We were like, yeah, it's livable. We want to work on the garden. We tore the entire front yard out. Elm tree, some crazy grass, whatever, Heinz 57. Tore it all out, and I said, we're putting in a Southern Hemisphere garden. That's what I told my husband. He said, okay, let's do it. So I started collecting proteaceous plants because I knew that was what I wanted. Because why? They sucked me in. Even as a horticulturist for many, many years, that was the plant material that I knew I needed to have in my life. And I wanted to learn more about it. So the only way you really learn is by getting involved with it, right? So we conditioned the soil to a certain degree. We put down our sulfur. We did the soil test. You know, we had some clay. We knew where it was a little bit heavy in different areas. We moved some things around. But we got the pH close to neutral. We really didn't go too heavy acid. We figured if we had certain items that needed a little bit more, we would throw them a handful of soil sulfur and scratch it in and call it a day. It works, okay? Not super scientific, but it works. And we decided that after a little while, you know, it was hard to find plants. It was really hard to find plants back then. And this was back in 98 to 2006. It's not really that long ago, but it was hard to find plants. And if you did, they were really expensive and they cost you a fortune for like a 4-inch or a 1 gallon or something like that. And then you had to wait forever. And sometimes you got plants that were a little bit draggled, but you were just so happy to have them, right? So we planted our garden and it grew up and we lived there for 8-9 years. And by the year 6 or 7, we would start coming home from being out, and we had no turf. This was just all wild plants, okay? Oh, and we painted our house like a mud color brown. Our neighbors asked us, they said, hey, so I see you primed your house. Are you gonna, like, what color are you gonna paint it? We're like, yeah, that's it, it's brown. Because we wanted the plants to pop. But once we had the garden growing in the middle of winter, you know, everything was really flourishing, beginning of spring. Things hadn't really started to wake up yet in terms of traditional landscape plants and flowers. And we'd come home, and there would be people in our garden, like total strangers. and my husband, he'd be like, do you know them? I'm like, no. And we'd walk up, and we'd say, hey, how's it going? You know, we were cool to them because it happened fairly often, actually. And they'd say, oh, hey, are you here to check out the garden? We're like, no, we live here. And they're like, oh, sorry. We're like, no, it's fine. And then we would chit-chat with them. So we made a lot of friends, actually, and inspired a lot more people, I think, about proteaceous plants. They were just blown away by the durability of them, yet the beauty, I think, is what all of us, you know, are in love with. So that's my story. I wish I had a photo. I dug and dug and dug, and I just could not find it. I don't know. I moved not too long ago to Palm Springs, so that's why I think I was having trouble finding it. Let me see here. Where am I? So now we have new parameters coming for us in the landscape world. Many of you, again, if you're in the floral business, you're not as familiar with this kind of thing unless you live in an HOA or you know about this new law that is coming. There are some government water restrictions that are happening. AB 1572 is a new California law that prohibits potable water used for non-functional turf. Has anybody heard of this? A couple people? Okay. On various property types, compliance is phased, depending on what property type you're on. And this can be not only homes, but this can be public places as well. So as you see, 2027, state-owned properties, including managed in Department of General Services, local governments, non-functional turf irrigation by January 1 of 2027. Commercial, industrial, and institutional properties by 2028. And by 2029, this is the one that's probably impacting homeowners the most, especially those that I work with. I work with a lot of HOAs, and they're freaking out because they have moderate use areas for water in some cases, and then they have turf as well. So not only do they have to work on their aging hillsides and slopes that need to be changed out, but now they got to change their turf. So they're really, and that's a lot of cost to the homeowners in the HOA, especially if they haven't been saving. Now the nice thing is it's 2029, so we have a little bit more time for that sort of situation, but it's definitely going to change the landscape. And so I do think that, again, natives as well as proteaceous plants are about to have their heyday. So if you're a nursery grower, ramp it up, because it's going to get really popular here. Here's what the professional and the public demands today, and the clients that I work and I think with, and this is landscape architects, homeowners, landscape contractors, nurseries, anybody who sells wholesale plant material or retail plant material. Color, color, color. It doesn't necessarily have to come through flowers. It can come through foliage. And that's where I think Proteas do a great job, especially the leucadendrons and the leucospermums, okay? Leucospermums obviously have those amazing flowers that happen in winter. Leucadendrons bloom all winter or show their color all winter long, and even some throughout the entire year, you know, depending on what the colors are. So there's this year-round interest that comes into the garden that is needed so badly for our climate. And we all know that proteaceous plants are incredibly durable, and they lose far less water than many plants. They also are very low maintenance. This is something for me that is really big. Low maintenance is a kind of a buzzword, if you will, and a lot of people don't really understand what that means, because low maintenance is not on its own. Low maintenance is tied to your cultural practices, okay? Very tied to that. And a lot of people don't understand that. Well, if I water it and I fertilize it and I prune it, then it's going to be low maintenance. No, that's high maintenance. What are you talking about? We don't want to do any of that to it. Proteaceous plants are kind of cool with that. They're okay with long spouts of no water and all these sorts of things. In fact, people want them to be completely carefree, plastic, more or less. okay? They want plastic. Let's just not lie, they want plastic. No specialty actions required, and very low fertility because they don't want to touch chemicals, they don't want to do all that kind of stuff. That's just too much work. And I get it, it's okay. It's a different age of gardener coming on. The aesthetic, it's always got to look good. Again, what did I say? Plastic, that's where we're going. I cringe when I hear people say, I'm just going to put in all rock. No, 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 no. Let's try proteaceous plants, how about that? And maybe a little rock, that sounds like a better plan. And then manage natural style. I think that's the other thing that we need to become a little more accustomed with, and I think that proteaceous plants help us there because for some reason the gardeners seem to be scared of them too. I think people are intimidated a little bit by them, if that's the right word to use, because I know for years when I would see them in nurseries, most people wouldn't even venture to buy them because they were a high price point typically because they were fairly scarce. And then the other thing is that people would kill them with kindness, and so they were saying proteas were difficult. No, proteas weren't difficult. You just couldn't let go and, you know, let the plant do its thing. Or you just didn't understand it. And that's pretty normal, especially when somebody is not used to a plant. So the nursery business today is thriving with proteaceous plants. We do have some really good growers out there producing some really nice plants. You know, proper labeling so that you can see exactly how big the plant's going to be. This is a very big trend in the nursery world that information is king, no pun intended. It is just one of those things where people, if they have knowledge, they will try things. And the price point has come down a lot. I know that we're going to Altman's on Thursday, and they have kind of brought and changed the world of proteaceous plants for all of us, to be honest, because they're the first ones to put them in mass merchants or into Home Depots. A lot of people may say that's bad. I don't think that's bad. I think that's great, because not only are they doing a great job, I personally buy plants for clients there. I think it's great, because there are there's a grower out there now that understands how to grow this plant material, how to produce it in mass, for people to try it and become adventurous, and as well as empower them to try new things. So I think that this is a wonderful thing to see happen. And for the rest of us, if we want to focus on maybe some more unique varieties or things like this, it just forces us to kind of level it up a little bit, you know, and there's nothing wrong with asking people to raise the bar, in my opinion. I think it's good for all of us. It really is. It forces us to strive. So the other thing is that we've also got very nice signage for the first time. Nurseries are putting out great signage. They're really encouraging people. They have beautiful displays. I saw some amazing displays this winter when I traveled throughout the state. And, you know, I bought some myself. I'm inspired. They grab you. They're beautiful. Okay, so there's a new landscape style emerging, and it's happening right before our eyes, believe it or not. One of my favorite things to do is travel, and I don't have to go to any place extravagant necessarily. I just have to go someplace I've never been before, okay? And I like that because I'm an observer. I love to look and I love to listen. And one of the things I'm always looking for is how are these plants utilized in the landscape? What are they with? How are they being treated, perhaps? So let's kind of look at this. So this is all up and down the state of California, okay, that I've taken these pictures. So here we have, happens to be in San Diego. Here we have a leucadendron that is in, looks like pretty dry soil to me. It's on a south-facing wall. Again, look, it doesn't look like it's been pruned on at all. It looks very natural, very beautiful. If you look at most yards, look at this, hedge. Everything's just, I'll show you more, but it's really ironic how they are left alone. I don't know why. Maybe the homeowner puts the fear in them, but I'm just telling you, they're left alone for some reason. So this new landscape style is one that I think is going to be really interesting because it's going to be a blend of not only Mediterranean, which is very appropriate, but it's also going to be a nice blend of California native. And if you understand how those plants work together, how they have very similar likes, it makes perfect sense. It really does. So here's a little guide that I made up, or a chart that I made up that shows the differences between California natives and proteaceous plants in terms of their needs, basically. And the ones in yellow, I just highlighted briefly. because I felt that they were very similar. They were pretty much spot on. Let's just do drought tolerance. Okay, very, very, very. Summer irrigation, often resent summer irrigation, very sensitive to root rot in summer. Okay, I would say those are pretty much the same. But there's very few that are not on the same page. And what's interesting is they kind of don't really matter, okay? Or you can live in the middle. So for example, organic matter, moderate use of compost, okay. Low to no organic material. Okay, well you just use a little bit. California natives, they don't really need any, honestly. Maybe when you first plant them, Kendall Farm says they put compost in when they first plant them, but after that, they don't do anything else, they leave them be. Nutrient adaptations, they have mycorrhizal relationships, and then these guys have cluster roots for nutrient uptake. It's kind of one and the same, really. It's just adaptations that are there. Pruning time, doesn't matter. Actually, this is great. Late summer to fall, okay, well, this is not at a time when you're pruning proteaceous plants. Proteaceous plants like to be pruned typically when they finish flowering, which is when? The end of spring, right? Or the beginning of summer. So there's a lot of things here that are similar but different, and I do believe that the reason why we're seeing these landscapes kind of emerging is because the science works. It just works. And if anybody's interested in this chart, I can certainly give it to somebody, no problem. There's lots of things. I'm not going to go into all of them because I think you can obviously see fire adaptation, wildlife support. There's just philosophy of care, I think, is kind of interesting. This is something in my wheelhouse that I'm thinking about all the time. Low input, seasonal, ecological, precision care, minimal input. So they're both very low on the input level. And you know what that says? Let nature do its thing. Let it be. How are we going to enjoy it if we don't let it do its thing? So here's an interesting landscape that I came upon. We've got barrel cactus, agave, sagos, lomandra, leucodendron, and leucospermums. Look who's the rock star here. Hey. Okay, these lomandras probably just need some sulfur. Just still probably just a little too high in the pH there. It might be color, but could just be straight nitrogen, who knows. But look at the barrel cactus. They look pretty happy. The little agave looks pretty happy, right? Not even from the same worlds. Okay, and everybody's thriving. Everybody's happy. No turf. There's your turf replacement. How often do you think that homeowner has to deal with that yard? Anybody want to guess? 2, 3 times a year? Maybe? Probably less, honestly. This is what people want. This is what they're looking for. This is actually a different yard, not even in the same area. This is up north. The other one was down south. And look at how similar they are. Isn't that hilarious? They must be friends. Oh, how about this one? Giant Dracaena dracos, Puya, Aeonium, and you've got Leucospermum in here. The diversity is incredible. They're so adaptable. Don't overthink it. Or how about this with conifers? Okay, we know they like acidic soil, so they're going to be pretty great with conifers, right? I know it sounds crazy, but look how great that looks. The blue and the yellow looks fabulous together, right? Don't get pigeonholed. Just think about the science, because the aesthetics of it are amazing and it can work. Here's another house that I found in San Diego. This one is really interesting to me because it has such a mix of plants. A pygmy palm, this Furcrea, I mean, you've got a Pennisetum, you got a little bit of everything in here. It's kind of the Heinz 57, and look what's going on. That thing is just shining. Whoops, I'm going the wrong way. How come it won't, oh, because I'm hitting the wrong button. But yeah, there's even a little succulent over here. I can't really tell what it is from this distance. Some yuccas, some variegated yuccas in here. Sure, it could maybe be a little fuller, a little this, a little that, but the plants all look pretty healthy, right? I think this is a great one to see because somebody fought for that pincushion. I don't know who, but somebody fought for that pincushion, okay? Because look at what it's in between. And the gardener, or whoever's taking care of this, has been warned, I promise you. Do not touch my pincushion. Right? Look at this. This hedging, you hear that hedger coming, you're like, hey, don't touch my pincushion. Or how about this one? I like the hands poking up. We've got a phormium. Okay, this guy's a lot more water, but we get away with it because we're at the coast. Okay, so this guy's okay at the coast. And then you've got a, help me, what's the dark one called? Ebony. Ebony, a jester, an agave, neonium. I mean, again, it's just all, and everybody's happy. Here's up north, the Bay Area. One thing I definitely noticed about them is that they're typically utilized in difficult areas, which is a great way to use them. So they're on slopes and things like that. Here's one that was covered under a pear tree up north. I don't know what kind of sun that gets during the winter time or during the summertime, but it looks like somebody had hedged this at some point, right? Would you agree? It doesn't look like they probably just wanted to maintain the window. And then how about this one? This guy loved his leucadendron so much he couldn't even cut it. Like it had a relationship with his car. He had to just leave it. They just loved each other so much. He said, I gotta leave it. He was probably scared to cut it. Probably is, he's probably scared to cut it. And here's another one in another house up north, just doing its thing. Again, maybe it's been hedged, maybe it hasn't. Garden Center in Orange County, Rogers Gardens, you might have been there. They sell a lot of them. They have them in their landscape. They look great. Really promoting them. And so I just want to close with saying that leucadendrons and leucospermums, I really do believe, are going to be the next plants that we see in the landscape up and down the entire coast of California. I personally moved to Palm Springs about 8 months ago, and I have acquired some plants myself, and I want to talk to the guys who have the low elevation plants. I want to talk to you guys a little bit more, even though the humidity is different. I do want to talk to you about that because I think that's really interesting. I'm going to try some in the desert because more people are moving to more areas like this. And quite honestly, the landscape in the desert is kind of boring. I want to see it jazzed up a little bit, and I think this is the plant material that can definitely do it. So if you're in this business, keep going. Keep going.